Not all tiredness lives in the body. There is a kind of fatigue where it is the brain itself that wears out. The strange part is that it often arrives without any feeling of being tired. Your judgment slows, your decisions get worse, and yet you don't notice. By the time you finally think, let me rest a bit, it is usually too late. With the brain, the decline has already set in. In a way, it is a kind of human bug. We simply have not fully adapted to the constant mental work of modern life. To understand this, it helps to sort fatigue into types. Some fatigue is physiological. You run hard, study, or work, your capacity drops, but a normal night's rest brings it back. Other fatigue is chronic. When heavy strain continues for months or turns into something like overtraining or a low depressive state, ordinary rest no longer fixes it. That is why it matters to deal with tiredness early before it piles up beyond recovery. Within everyday fatigue, there is physical tiredness and mental tiredness. And here's a surprise. Even physical fatigue is partly a brain event. Muscles run low on stored fuel, yes, but it is the brain that fires the muscles, so part of the exhaustion is central, coming from the nervous system. Mental fatigue splits too. There is the plain sensation of feeling tired, and there is cognitive fatigue, where your actual judgment and decision speed decline. Brain fatigue gathers up all the pieces that trace back to the brain. So what happens inside during cognitive fatigue? A region just to the side of the forehead, the prefrontal cortex, handles judgment. When you start a demanding task, it fires up, and for a while you think clearly and decide well. But it cannot stay switched on forever. Keep going long enough and its activity falls, and your judgment falls with it. Researchers study this using esports, where players sit still and only their minds work hard, much like a long stretch of desk work. Then there is lactic acid, long blamed as a mere fatigue substance. The picture has changed. Lactic acid is actually an energy source, and it also works as a brake. When it climbs too high, receptors on the nerves quietly damp down activity. That braking is not a flaw. It is protection. Fatigue is best understood as a defense mechanism, an early alarm that fires even before pain or fever, warning you to stop before you push a system to real damage. Without it, we could drive ourselves to collapse. The same logic shows up in effort across days. Push far too hard in one workout, and the next day you barely move, which is why sudden extreme exercise often backfires. Moderate, regular movement wins. The brain follows the same rule. Overload it today, and tomorrow's performance suffers. But the brain has a dangerous twist. In physical effort, the feeling of tiredness rises first and pulls you back. In pure mental work, that order flips. Your judgment declines while your sense of fatigue stays flat. You are making worse decisions, and you have no idea. That gap is the hardest part of brain fatigue, and it is why we need signals from outside ourselves. The eyes turn out to be one. After a couple of hours of hard mental work, the pupils shrink, and the more they shrink, the slower and less accurate the judgment. The feeling of fatigue, meanwhile, tracks none of this. The face gives another clue. During intense mental work, the body makes little heat, but tension tightens the vessels in the hands and face, so the fingertips and the nose grow noticeably cooler. By the time you finally notice your nose is cold, you are already worn out. That leaves the question of what to do. 4 levers help: exercise, nutrition, rest, and simple human bonding. Exercise need not be long. A single minute of short, sharp movement before a task can lower the fatigue you feel during it. Nutrition works faster than you would expect. Protein taken in the morning lifts mental performance that same morning, unlike caffeine and sugar, which help in a pinch but harm you as a daily habit. And there is a gentler tool: plain, unsweetened carbonated water. Its fizz stimulates receptors in the throat that sense both cold and warmth at once, which rouses a swallowing center linked to the prefrontal cortex. In tests, sipping it across a few hours held the rise in fatigue at bay and even made the work feel more enjoyable. Sharing that fizz with others, it seems, is part of why a simple toast can lift the whole mood of a room.